Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here in the United States of America on the East Coast. I promised you from time to time we would keep our eyes on what's happening in Canada and continue to support the Canadian patriots that have stood so strong. Now, I'm going to get right to the point, folks, because I try to keep these broadcasts short during the week because you're busy. Well, we're going to respond, folks. I'm going to share with you in a moment how we're going to respond to the Canadian government. A lot of people aren't going to like what we're going to do, but we're going to do it. And it will be effective, and I will qualify what I just shared with you in a moment. To begin with, we did receive videos, and I tell you, overwhelming numbers of emails, heartbreaking stories from Canadian people who truly are so heartbroken themselves over what has happened to their country. But fear not, folks. Believe me, the dark winters come and they go. Those who are in government, not only in your nation, in Canada, but here in the United States and other nations, believe me, folks, they're going to end up going. It runs in cycles. We just have to stay the course. We just have to believe that the power that God's given us to preserve freedom, to preserve liberty, gifts from Him, are going to be preserved by our actions. Our actions must be, and I cannot overemphasize this because we learned something in America about how effective we can be if we work within the framework of the law, if we work within the framework of our Constitution here in America and your Constitution, your Charter of Rights, I believe it is, work within the framework of the law. Give them no reason to say you are in the wrong because you are in the right. Now in America, parents have been called terrorists. People like me, people like the hardworking people all over the world, right, fighting for freedom and liberty. All the government does is call names. Oh, we're terrorists. We're the bad guys. But I've said all along, any government that unleashes its police and military on their people, the people who are lawfully, with dignity, with honor, within the framework of the law, who are protesting within those confines, any government that unleashes their military or police on those people, they become the terror, the government. These governments and their leaders are the terror to the people. The people in Canada have shared with me that they're in fear. They say they're in fear of their bank accounts being seized, of their houses being seized. I mean, all kinds of bullying and threatening going on. With regard to what the people are doing. But again, stay the course. Folks, a member of your parliament tweeted something out the other day. I'm going to respond to him directly Monday night when we hold our broadcast here at 7 p.m. That's when we have our broadcast, usually 7 p.m. on Monday nights. But I'm reserving my comments to him on Monday night. And I'm going to get a message to him directly to tune in because I have a lot of questions for him. But be that as it may, we're going to take action. We're going to take lawful action. We're going to take action that's out of the box. Now, let me share this with you on what we're going to do. And it's just not me, folks. I'm talking about thousands of Americans, and I'm hoping millions of Americans do what we are going to launch today. First of all, this is how we got this plan and how we got this idea to respond. It's out of the box. All right. I want you to know it's out of the box. Back in the 80s, here in New Jersey, a member of the Soviet embassy, or at least a Soviet diplomat, this was before the fall of the Soviet Union, committed a crime, a minor crime, but he was arrested and he was brought to a police headquarters here in New Jersey. Well, needless to say, he called his embassy, the Soviets called the American embassy, and some judge ordered the police chief of that particular community in New Jersey to release this diplomat. The chief would have none of it, folks. He would have none of it. The guy broke the law. He's in a city here in the United States. He's going to pay the price. Well, of course, the courts overruled the chief, and the chief had to release this individual Soviet Russian diplomat. But it did not end there, because here's what the chief did, folks. He literally told the Soviet officials and the American officials who forced him to release this diplomat, his words were they could pound salt up to you know where. They could pound salt up where the sun doesn't shine. And he actually used the words. Well, tons and tons and tons, tons and tons and tons of salt was actually sent to the Soviet Russian embassy here in the United States. They couldn't keep up with what was going on. The chief made his point. Well, we have an idea, and here's what we're going to do, folks. Today, I'm urging every American across the United States to demonstrate their support for the Canadian truckers and the Canadian patriots. Demonstrate your support within the framework of the law. We will violate no laws, and this is not violating one law. Beginning today, folks, we're going to be sending, I hope, tens of thousands, and I hope 1 million of these right here to the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Millions and millions of these model trucks, millions. I really pray and hope to God. Maybe it won't be millions, but at least I hope that tens of thousands of these trucks will go there. Why these trucks, folks? With these trucks will come letters of support for the Canadian patriots. They're going to have so many trucks, folks, they won't know what to do with them. These are symbolics. These are symbols of freedom. These are symbols of freedom. And those of you in other countries, please put your nation's flag on top of that truck. You know, we're going to deliver it just like this. It's going to be mailed. No law is broken, folks. They're breaking up a convoy in Canada. They're going to have a convoy of model trucks. And we realized that by that methodology, there is nothing that they could do but accept the trucks. And they're going to have to pile them up like they piled the salt up. They had mountains of salt back then. They didn't know what to do with the salt. They were going crazy. And this is what we intend to do, to send our message. Now, it's unorthodox, it's out of the box, but I've got to tell you, folks, it's effective. It is effective because it'll make sure that they know that not only by word, but by deed. They could arrest people, they could stop the convoys, they could use the power of the law in order to stop people from exercising their constitutional rights of free speech to a limit. Because by doing this, we are exercising our rights. Our rights, folks, our constitutional rights here in America of free speech in order to protest a government that has become, in my view, an arm of the Communist Party. This is how communism works. You go after the people's rights to free speech. You go after the people's rights to assemble. You threaten to take their bank accounts. You threaten to take their homes. You threaten to take their jobs. This is communism. This happened, as I said earlier, in Hong Kong and Tiananmen Square. It's happening today in certain cities around the world. I would have never believed in all my days, folks, that this would happen in Canada, but it's happened. And why? And I'll answer the question again, because a lot of people, really great letters, but they are asking, why are you so committed to this cause? I am committed to this cause because there are no walls, folks, that should be up with regard to freedom and liberty. What happens to the Canadian people, an assault on the Canadian people who are fighting for freedom and liberty, is an assault on the American people and the assault on people all over the world that are looking to fight, preserve, protect, and defend their freedom and their liberty. So if they think, they meaning the sympathizers of these tyrants, if they think we're going to stop, we're not stopping. The way we outsmart them, folks, think about this. They don't, protests are great, and I support them, and they raise public awareness, but sometimes it's hard to keep bad people away from good people who are protesting. That's what happens a lot. You'll get agitators come in, and they'll do some crazy things, and before you know it, the government is painting a broad picture on all of the good protesters. I encourage protests, work within the framework of the law, don't let things get out of control, but how are they going to stop this, folks? I'm going to ask you something. How are they going to stop getting, hopefully, 1 million of these? I really mean it, folks. So now I'm going to caution you on one thing. Go out and buy these trucks on your own. This one was like $7, folks. Go out, buy them on your own. You can get them small, get them big, because after this airs, I guarantee you somebody's going to want to try to make a lot of money, and they're going to produce trucks and they're going to say, buy our freedom trucks and send them to an embassy. Don't do that. You go on your own. You pick what you want. Go to your store, all right? And then you send these trucks. You send these trucks to the Canadian Embassy here in America. Now, we were thinking about sending them to Canada, but you know what communists do? They open up mail, they search packages. We're not gonna allow them to take what we do. And by the way, to the Canadian government officials that are hurting the Canadian patriots, your own citizens, you're not gonna bully us. All right. You're not going to bully us. You're not going to intimidate us. In fact, you're not going to bully your citizens and intimidate them, because now we are walking shoulder and shoulder with them. And I'll tell you what's happening, Mr. Trudeau, if you will, and the other members of parliament supporting him. You are causing a shockwave around the world. and in this country. Because as I speak to you, there are now truckers in this country, and there are American patriots in this country who have been emboldened by the protesters in your country. I have not seen, nor have I heard, of protesters striking the police physically, of assaulting cops. I have not seen, and I have not heard of the protesters that are working within the framework of the law doing anything other than what they are doing. Now, of course, you'll say they're breaking the law and they don't belong there. Is it necessary to bring horses in? My goodness. I mean, listen, folks, we've had cities burned by protesters here. We've had cops shot by protesters. We've had cities, Seattle, remember Seattle, folks? The city of Seattle, United, taken over, occupied by bad people. No dogs, no horses, none of that stuff. None of that stuff. Eventually, they went away. I thought the government should have been a little tough on these people because they were, in fact, committing crimes. They were assaulting people, burning buildings. But our police didn't do that here because we have a whole different setup of liberals and, if you will, socialists and communists who just tell the police not to do their job. So if the cops, if the police supervisors and the politicians in Canada want to unleash police, unleash them on the bad guys. I'll tell you what, why don't you come to the United States, okay, and do what we would like our cops to do, all right? But to do it on your own people, come on, give me a break. This is really terrible. But your government, you have disgraced your government, Mr. Trudeau and the members of parliament. You have disgraced your government in the eyes of the world. If you think the majority of people across this planet support you, you're dead wrong. You see, I've learned something about politics. Because remember, I was one of you guys. To some effect, I still am. All right. When I was an office holder in the United States, I realized real quick that, these politicians kind of climb up to the Ivy Tower and they never come back to talk to the people other than when there's an election. Well, I'm one of those guys that never went to the Ivy Tower. I decided to stay with the grassroots Americans here. And you've got people in your country who are staying with the grassroots Canadians. And those are the ones, folks. Those are the people that you must embrace. So first and finally, I want to commend the Canadian people. I've been watching these protests and I've been all over America and be talking to a lot of people and so proud of the Canadians who stood their ground without throwing all sorts of rocks and weapons and assaulting police. We didn't see any of that. And if it went on pretty isolated because not much is being said or showed about that because it isn't happening. The honor, the dignity that you have committed yourselves to within the framework of the law should be commended, not condemned by your government. But that government there, Trudeau and those individuals who support him in the government, their time's coming. And their time will come when you are able to go and cast your ballots. Their time will come. They will come, and the people who will make the decision as to what their fate is are the people who are going to be going to the polls when you have elections in Canada. We will help you here in the United States to get the word out. We can't get involved in your elections. That's against the law, but we could certainly do a lot of work here in calling upon our fellow countrymen to at least get the word out that we have people in Canada who are working hard to preserve their freedom and liberty. That is what America is all about. And to Mr. Biden, President Biden of the United States, I've got a message for you too. I've said this all along. We should be concentrating maybe our efforts on helping the Canadian people with regard to that government just north of us than worried about Ukraine. We have no business in Ukraine. You're dragging us into a war that we don't belong in. We have problems on our own borders. We have problems on the Mexican border, and now we've got a big problem on the Canadian border. Now, one might say, well, come on, the big problem on the Canadian border is not as big as the problem on the Mexican border. It's not as big. It's bigger. Folks, when you have a government in a free country like Canada that turns on its people, this Emergency Powers Act, this is martial law. This would be called martial law in the United States of America. What's next, Mr. Trudeau? You're going to send your military in? Folks, those of you in the United States and there are thousands of you watching, keep an eye on what's happening in Canada. Somebody in this country, like from the Biden administration, may get some crazy idea that, you know what? This is something maybe we ought to do in America. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So again, folks, I implore you, work within the framework of the law. We have laws in our countries that enable us to protest peacefully, but to get our point across effectively. Here it is. For those of you who just tuned in, I'm urging every American citizen to go out and buy one of these. Go to your local store, your Target, your Walmart, wherever you can get them. Folks, this was $7 in a Target's, okay? But you go and buy it on your own, okay? And you look up on the internet, you can see where the Canadian Embassy is in Washington, D.C. and mail it. And if you mail a letter, be diplomatic, be nice, okay? I mean, there's a way of getting your point across. I'm going to send a letter and I will read it to you Monday night. This thing is going to go out Monday morning. And hopefully they'll get a million of these. Maybe not a million, maybe tens of thousands. But whatever the case is, they want to get rid of the trucks. They want to tow the trucks out. They want to hurt the people of their country. Well, try to stop us from doing this. Try to stop us from doing this. Because the post office department in America is not going to open your mail. Not going to happen, folks. We figure if we send it to Canada, well, you know what communists do. They open up mail and they snoop on a lot of people. So that's it. That's why I came on. Every time I get these emails and these messages from you, believe me, it's heartbreaking. It really is to read about the fear that the government has instilled upon the people. But I'm going to tell you something, folks, and I'm going to end with this. Franklin Roosevelt said here, he was a president here during World War II. He said that there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And this is how bullies work. This is how tyrants work. They will instill fear into you. Now, I don't know where the other members of parliament are that support you. I mean, they need to speak up and speak out. And speaking about speaking up and speaking out, I want to commend the clergy of your nation who sent a scathing letter to Trudeau. I mean, that was great. They spelled it out. They made it clear he's a tyrant. He's violating God's law. He's violating man's law. He's violating the laws of freedom and liberty. So my hat's off to those clergymen. But you see what's happening, folks, across your country in Canada and across the United States. People are starting to respond. Took a little time, but it's starting to respond. And now, a couple of quick things. I keep on saying this is the last thing I'm going to say. Please forgive me. But I'm remembering a few things. One, folks, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. Please, you see, campaignforamerica.com. That's our website. I'm going to ask you to go to it and just give us your contact information. We don't need your name, just your email. I'll tell you why. I don't know how long that we're going to be lasting here on Facebook because we're getting more and more responses. Over 150,000 one week, 200,000 across the board. So I don't know where Facebook is going to do, if they're going to shut us down, suspend us. But we are on Rumble and other social media platforms. So we're preparing now. So if you go to campaignforamerica.com, we're going to send you, when you fill out that contact form, all of the social media platforms that we're on. Number two, you will never receive any requests for donations from us. Absolutely not. Oh, that's going on. Everybody's making money on stuff like this. We're not in this for anything but doing what is right. Right in the eyes of God, and right is what is in the eyes of man, if you will. All right. And then finally, folks, be not discouraged. Do not fear. I mean that. Do not fear. We're coming together as one big team in order to address the tyrants around the world, and especially in this case of Canada. So I leave you with this, Psalm 121. Go to your Bibles and go to Psalm 121. When you finally reach the end of the rope and you're hopeless and you feel that there's nowhere to go, this is what that Psalm says, and I pray it every day. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. From whence cometh my help? My eyes are upon the hills, upon the Lord, and pray for his guidance and wisdom. And at the end of the day, the truth will set you free. And the truth in this case, without a doubt, is the truth of freedom and the truth of liberty. Until next time, I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. God bless you. God bless Canada. God bless the United States of America and all freedom-loving people.